Okay, I call to order the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, November 21st, 2024. It is 6:32 p.m. Present this evening are Commissioners Lisa Makevich, Pete Hristo, Michael Henry, Ned Hacker, Jake Pearson, and Michael Richards. I am Maren Patterson. I'm the chair. From staff, we have Zachary Smallwood, David Rogers, Mark Richardson, and Phil Markham. We welcome the public, and we thank you for attending our meeting. We're always grateful to have you participating. Some etiquette items to review. We ask that you take a moment to silence your cell phones. When it comes time to make a comment on the agenda, we ask that you come to the podium and speak into the microphone for the recording, and we also ask that you state your name and address for the minutes. Once the item that you are here for is over, you are welcome to leave. We just ask that you do so quietly so that we can continue with our remaining agenda items. If you are viewing this meeting online on the live stream, the only way to make a public comment is to email planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. If you post a comment on the Facebook or YouTube's comment section, it will not be seen tonight. So we will start with our item number 1, our meeting minutes from October 3rd. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Is there a motion? I'll entertain a motion.
Should we just make the comment that these minutes aren't the corrected minutes and the corrected minutes of what we're motioning?
I'll re-upload the packet and everything with the corrected minutes on the website and everything.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the corrected minutes that we talked about in the pre-meeting.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the October 3rd, 2024 minutes as we discussed in the pre-meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion passes. Conflicts of interest. Do any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest with any of our agenda items this evening?
No.
Neither do I. Item number 3, approval of findings of facts. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review the findings of fact and conclusions for the conditional use permit for revision scar therapy?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
This one had the small correction. I assume that'll be in there.
Yes.
Chair, I'll make a motion that we approve the findings of facts for revision scar therapy, including the correction we made in the pre-meeting.
Is there a second?
I'll
Second.
Oh, sorry.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We will move on now to agenda item number 4, Crockett Auto Sales. Is the applicant here? Okay, great. First, we'll have a presentation from staff, and then we'll have you come up.
Thank you, Commission. So this is a conditional use permit for an auto sales business in the manufacturing general zone located at 5226 South Commerce Drive, number 3. So it is a 0.61 acre site. The unit itself will be just over 2,000 square feet, and it's surrounded primarily by light manufacturing with some office to the south. Here are all the different zones that surround this area. It is just off of Commerce Drive, with I-15 on the west side, north of 5300 South. So the applicant has provided a site plan and a floor plan. You can see on the screen in front of you the unit that the applicant intends to use. And with the floor plan that has the showroom, which is where the vehicles will be stored, an office space, restrooms, and an entrance and lobby area. So for parking and access, this property has a shared access, which you can see I've circled in red, that comes off of Commerce Drive. The parking that they are required to have is 4 stalls, and they have indicated that they have 5 stalls that will be available to them. So as a condition of approval, the applicant will restripe the parking areas, and this will occur in the spring and was already planned, and I gave you all an email in the pre-meeting that shows that the property owner has planned on doing that. And so the applicant has shown that they meet parking requirements. So chapter 17.68 requires that landscaping in the front setback area for all commercial areas. There was a chart that was included in your packet that shows the landscaping that they have and what is needed. And the applicant has indicated that the property owner will be required the landscaping, will be adding the required landscaping in the spring, and so staff does not have any concerns with their landscaping. So we have a noticing requirement to send notices to surrounding property owners for conditional use permits. So 12 notices were sent to all property owners located within 300 feet of the subject property. And as of the date of this meeting, staff has not received any public comments. So based on an analysis of the conditional use permit application, staff has found the following. So the proposed use for an auto sales business is allowed in the MG zone, subject to conditional use approval. With the conditions outlined in the staff report, the proposed use and property will comply with the standards of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance, and the proposed use is not contrary to the goals and objectives of the Murray City General Plan in this area. So based on our analysis, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve a conditional use permit to allow an auto sales business at the property located at 5226 South Commerce Drive number 3, subject to the following conditions, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Just a simple question on the conditions. Who does the permitting for signs?
So in order to get a sign, you have to have a building permit. So it's our building department, and planning staff reviews those as part of the building permit application process.
Okay, thank you.
I have two questions. I think it's appropriate to ask now. If not, tell me. I can wait. In our packet where we discussed project description, I think the last sentence was just a little unclear to me, so I want to make sure, see if it was unclear to others or make sure it's not unclear to the applicant. And in that sentence, we said the cars will be housed and displayed inside the dealership, but may be brought out for display, test drives and so on. I think, to me, what I think we're saying is that you can store and display inside, but you can only temporarily display outside. Is that what that sentence says?
So staff is under the impression that the cars will be housed primarily inside and will be brought out occasionally just for display or a test drive, just temporarily, that the primary display will be located within the building.
Awesome. I had one other question. We talked about this in pre-meeting, but I think we're all expecting a deferral agreement for the landscaping, but I don't think we've discussed that in the packet. Is it? Did I just miss it?
So a deferral was not specifically mentioned, but the applicant is aware that they need to comply with landscaping, and that the property owner has indicated that will be done in the spring, so we will work out the agreement to make sure that that happens.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
We kind of talked about earlier too, is there any reason they couldn't use one of those parking spaces as a display area?
So they need to make sure that the 4 spaces that they have are
Right.
used for the customers. They have indicated that they have 5 spaces, so they could use 1 space as a display space, but the applicant's aware that primarily the spaces are to be used for customers and that the display will be used temporarily. That the primary display will be inside the building and they'll be brought out for special occasions rather than that being the primary storage location.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, if we could have the applicant come forward. And if you would state your name and address for the record.
Sure. It's Jim Crockett, and I live at 7 Circle Oaks in Sandy.
Great. Have you had an opportunity to review the conditions?
Yes,
And you'll be able to comply with those?
yes.
Great. Is there any additional information you'd like to give the commission?
But one additional one is I've looked into it further, and the number of parking spots is actually more like 10 or 11
That are available?
that are available.
Okay.
That are assigned to that property, so that's, which re-raises the question. So, but the intent is primarily for them to be inside, but, so let me ask that question. If I keep 4 available outside, does that open up a few spots for display?
I think there's some variables in the discussion, right? Because the parking can't be in front of the overhead garage. right?
So,
Parking's on the
what I
other side.
would recommend is figuring out in your lease how many are reserved, making sure it's that 5. because there probably are other businesses that operate there as well, that also need to meet the parking requirements. But yeah, if you have additional spaces, we just need those 4 reserved for yourself, right? And then any patrons of the business.
Yep, makes sense.
Any questions of the applicant? Okay, we'll have you sit down. Thank you so much. I will now open the meeting for public comment regarding this item. If you would like to make a comment on this agenda item, you can do so by coming to the podium. Please state your name and address into the microphone for the record before you comment, and try to keep your thoughts to 3 minutes. We also ask that you offer new information in your comments. Please do not rehash any already stated concerns. After the public comment portion of this meeting, we will address any of your questions or concerns with the applicant or with staff. So at this time, if there's anyone that would like to make a public comment regarding this agenda item? Did you receive any email comments? Okay, seeing none, then I will close the public comment period and bring it back for discussion or a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit to allow an auto sales business at the property address 5226 South Commerce Drive, number 13, subject to the conditions listed.
What's number 3? Did you say 13 or 3?
I don't know. Drive, South Commerce Drive, number 3.
Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker and a second by Commissioner Henry to approve a conditional use permit to allow the auto sales business at the property located 5226 South Commerce Drive, number 3, subject to the 7 conditions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we can take a vote.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Chair Patterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Hacker,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry.
Yes.
Great. Motion passes. Congratulations and good luck with your business. Thanks so much for being here tonight. All right, agenda items number 5 and 6 will be presented together, and then we'll have 2 votes on them. Is the applicant here? Great. Okay, first we'll have a presentation.
Awesome, thank you so much. Yeah, this is a request from Justin Lang for the Murray Fields Townhomes, planned unit development and preliminary subdivision approval for 36 townhomes at 770 and 780 West 5300 South. Located just north of 5300 South and a little west of 7th West. It was rezoned in October of 2023 to RM15, which allows densities up to 12 units per acre. Let's see. So here is the preliminary plat showing all the different townhome lots. This one is more informative, I think. This is the site plan, which indicates that all the different lots and the drive there. So as part of this, the setbacks here, as a PUD, it allows for us to, it allows the Planning Commission to grant additional or a reduction in setbacks. So as you can see, and I'll try to zoom in here as well, we'll start with the rear setback line. So it is from here to this, where you can see kind of, it's a PL is what it actually says, property line, is approximately 10 feet. However, there is an additional property right here that is owned by Murray City, and that is an additional, it varies anywhere from 12 to I think 20 feet in width. So normally the planning staff and the engineering staff wouldn't recommend such a narrow or a reduced setback. Typically, we do, maybe 5 feet reduction from the 25 feet or so. But because of this unique circumstance, it puts this one specifically at about 30 feet measured from this building line to this property line. So it's actually a little bit bigger than what a standard subdivision would be. So I don't know if I stated this, but this is owned by Murray City. It was previously used as a stormwater line. That has since been abandoned. Justin, or Mr. Lang, has been approached the city about potentially purchasing that. And I think those negotiations might still be ongoing. If not, Murray City will still retain the property. We have no intention on surplusing it otherwise. So, and then with the front yard setback, which is the stuff on 5300 South, again, there's a unique circumstance here, and it's best illustrated right here. This is everything that is not colored along 5300 South is considered the right-of-way line. So that is all owned by the Utah Department of Transportation. And as you can see, it's very large. 5300 South by itself is already a very large right-of-way. You have 4 travel lanes, a very wide shoulder, and a very wide middle lane. So we were comfortable to allow him to have, to push those properties here as far back as he could get them, to move these properties up as close as he could get them to meet his maximum density. When we reviewed this, it goes anywhere from like 60 feet to 104 feet to the right-of-way line. And then, 60 feet to the right-of-way line, which would, to the sidewalk, I should say, to the sidewalk area. And then once you get to asphalt, it's about 104 feet. So staff is confident that is more than adequate. Even if UDOT were to expand 5300 South, they could add probably 4 more lanes in each direction, and you still wouldn't have a setback that is to a degree that would impact this area as well.
Mr. Sullivan, while you're on that, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Could you show us where a deceleration lane would be placed if they were to place one in there? How would that affect this?
If anything, I mean, this is what UDOT had shown, and we can ask Mr. Lang on this, but I would assume, again, this has a very wide shoulder, right? So I don't even know if they would require a decel lane. So the access would be approximately here, coming out, and you have this very wide shoulder that would act as probably the decel lane, if required. But I don't anticipate that they would require one. Those are usually used on narrower right-of-ways, typically, when there's a shoulder. So no, they don't have an official, they have a preliminary approval. So, as I mentioned in the pre-meeting, when we rezoned this, the entire reason staff was comfortable supporting the rezone was because there was an agreement to provide an access onto 5300 South. Typically, UDOT says no. Specifically, we tried to get an access here for this property to the south. Well, Ivory did, and they said no multiple times. So he does have an active permit, and the engineering staff and planning staff has received assurances from UDOT that he will eventually get one. It might take some time. And then if he doesn't get one, it doesn't move forward. So that's really the gist of it.
I guess I'm kind of maybe building a little bit on Commissioner Mulcavich's comment. If they adjust the roadway there, we don't know for sure how that affects the setbacks. I mean, we can make assumptions, right?
I don't understand.
If there's a deceleration lane or something else changes there, are we sure that it won't change any of the assumptions we've made on?
I would say it doesn't affect it. Even if there was a deceleration lane added, you can see the sidewalk juts in further here, and you can kind of see where that starts to do that here, along here. So you would even be able to put in a decel lane pretty wide. I mean, that from here to here is 10 feet. And, okay, so I guess this is a decel lane. And we can, again, this is why we kind of have the applicant explain some of this too.
And exactly, and that, I kind of what I expected your answer to be, and that your answer kind of made me also think, is that officially a sidewalk, or is that just where people have been walking?
It's a sidewalk.
So that is where the sidewalk would be?
Yeah, it is
Okay.
paved. Yep,
So that kind of helps visualize.
Yep. yeah. So, do you want to,
Well, I have a question on a different topic, but I don't know if you.
did you want to?
I don't know if you were able to finish your presentation. 'cause
No,
I
I
asked you a
didn't.
question.
Yeah, that's
But,
fine.
hold on one second. Okay, sorry. So this is the utilities, utility plan. As you can see, water coming up from this side here, coming down this access drive, or this access easement, and then you have sewer. Recently, Murray City did redo the sewer in this area. It actually comes pretty much through, right there, actually, storm drain. So it's not sewer, storm drain through here. We've been working with Justin on Mr. Lang, I'm sorry, I just know him on a first name basis. Mr. Lang on that as well. Here is the landscaping plan. It's a very traditional landscape plan. As part of a PUD, they are required to have a dedicated area of open space, which he has shown a walking path up here, connecting up with this little access here that eventually meets up with some sidewalk that I can again come here and show you. It has a sidewalk that will go through here and then kind of goes through the Applegate area and then connects over to Clover Meadow on this side. And then obviously goes to Smith's and everything over there on the east side. Elevations for you, so they will be 2 stories on that northern side. No 3 stories on that side. The south side, facing 5300 South, will be the 3-story product showing here, but everything on the north side. He was very cognizant of and mindful about the impacts to the neighbors to the north and wanted to make sure that those were lower heights. So public notices were mailed in connection with the proposed PUD to 203 property owners and affected entities. We received 2 emails about the property concerned about utility access on this property right here, which we can discuss further if you'd like. Findings, with the conditions, the proposed subdivision complies with the standards in the Murray City subdivision ordinance. The lots will comply with the development standards in chapters 17.120 and 17.60 of the Murray City Land Use Ordinance. Proposed subdivision is in harmony with the purposes of the RM15 zone, and the proposed subdivision is in harmony with the purpose and intent of the Murray City General Plan. So with that, we are recommending approval of the planned unit development and granting preliminary subdivision for the Murray Fields, property address 770 and 780 West 5300 South, subject to the 8 conditions. And I'm happy to take questions. Oh, let me go back. Sorry, I noticed notes. So parking. Parking is required at 2.5 spaces per unit. So with the 36 units, that comes out to 90 spaces. They've provided 124 through the garage spaces, and then also those driveway spaces are large enough to fit 2 vehicles as well. So with that,
And is 10 feet adequate length for vehicles on that? Driveways?
They're longer, the driveways are longer than 10 feet.
You've only got a 10-foot setback in the front of the buildings.
The driveway's in the rear.
So the driveways are located right here. So they're located along the private access.
And that's considered the back of the building,
Yeah, back of the buildings.
and the front door's on the other side.
Okay, on the fencing on the north of that property, you said that the applicant has proposed to maintain the existing fencing along the north boundary line.
Mhm.
Are you talking the boundary line of the houses that are there, or the boundary line that does not include that Murray City-owned right-of-way?
I believe it would not include the Murray City property, but again, I'd kind of defer to Mr. Lang to kind of explain that a little bit more in depth. He's not proposing, because it's technically Murray City property, between the property owners to the north, he would have to put that, if he were to do fencing, he would
Well,
have
that's
to
what I
do
would
fencing.
expect.
Yeah, out of,
So is there a fence there? Well, when you say maintaining, you're just talking the fence line.
correct.
Okay.
And I believe there is a fence like along this side that he would maintain and keep the same
And
as
if he
well.
were to purchase that property,
Mhm.
how does that affect these setbacks?
It doesn't?
If he were to, I assume if he purchased that property, he would add that onto this.
It's a little more complex than that, because technically, you can't see it very well, but that little sliver is still zoned R18. So if he wanted to add it as part of like open space or something to that would have to be rezoned, because we can't have properties in
And it
two
would have
zoning
to be
districts.
a change to the,
Yeah, it would have to be a subdivision,
Subdivision
first
change, right.
rezoned, and then a subdivision amendment to include it.
And if he were to do that, that's an interesting question, because if you were to purchase that property and go through the process to have it rezoned prior to building, then he could change where his layout or where the buildings exist, but it's
He
not
would
really,
he would still have to come, most likely have to come back before this body.
it's
if
not
he-
really in his
yeah.
favor.
Right, yeah.
that would basically change this whole, this approval would almost become void in a sense.
We would most likely make him come back in that instance. Because I think he would have to do a preliminary all over again. I don't think it could just be addressed in a final. But really what's important is what you're looking at tonight.
Even with that strip of land there, I'm still a little bit apprehensive about the 10-foot setback. Knowing that sliver's there makes me a whole lot more comfortable.
Mhm.
Okay. Just appreciate the information.
Who owns the trees on that right property where the pathway will be? The existing trees, and would he?
So this stuff here?
Yeah,
Yeah, sorry, I pointed,
I
this
saw it,
stuff
yeah.
here, right? That would be owned by the HOA.
okay, so they would most likely keep those and maintain those trees?
We can ask the applicant if that's his intent. I don't know how much of those are viable, good trees, quote-unquote good trees, and not,
I think they're Siberian elms, I think, if I remember right, which are trash
Sure.
trees, for the record.
Okay, are there any further questions for staff? All right, if we could have the applicant come forward.
Hello.
Thanks for being here. If you could state your name and address for the record.
Justin Lang, 811 Clover Meadow Drive.
Great, and have you had an opportunity to review the conditions?
Yes.
And you'll be
Lots of
able to
them.
comply with those?
Yes.
Great. Is there any additional information you'd like to give the commission?
I can field those questions.
Yeah,
if
that'd
they-
be great.
If they re-go through them, but the fencing issue with the sliver of land. So we initially tried to purchase that sliver of land. We were told we couldn't do it. It was too long of a process. After we went through boundary line agreement, because there was a lot of stuff messed up with the boundary lines, they said, we actually are willing to give that to you. We said, we can deal with that after this thing, but our intent would be not to add it to this, not to do anything with it. We would just take it off Murray City, leave, have our title company just redistribute it to the people who already have it in their backyard current. So I live on 811 is one of the yards that backs that. So it's 5 feet of that Murray City currently owned property is in my backyard. It's been fenced in for 50 years. I don't know why it was there. So we didn't want to change anyone's fence line. We don't want to tear anyone's backyards up. We just said, we can just take it, redistribute it to the people that already own it, and make the fence line the new property line, instead of trying to move stuff around. And as part of that, what Zach was saying with the fencing is, we just want to leave the existing fence that people have up. Most of people have put new vinyl fencing in. And we just said, hey, we'll replace any fence that's not new vinyl fence. Anyone who has the old chain link or something, or a wood fence they want taken out, we'll just make it all match all the way across. But I don't want to tear everyone's yards up just to put a new fence in that they've just put in, basically.
Well, okay, but if you do that, you're on city property right now, unless you buy.
The fence line has been on city property since it was built. So that
I'm
neighborhood
very
from the
familiar with that kind of
1970s.
Fence mess.
Well, it would be rededicated to those property owners, right?
If we took the Murray City property, we would just rededicate it and make the fence line the new property line. It would
And
have
if I
nothing
can-
to do with our subdivision. It would just be
And if I can just, that is all contingent upon
Sure.
him getting that property. Right
Yes.
now, we couldn't condition him to put a fence on Murray City property.
Okay, well, it maybe changes my question a little bit then. So if that property line, or that fence has been there for, what you said, 30 years?
at
They
least,
basically
at least
have, and I
50
don't know
years.
what the legal term is. Those property owners have a prescriptive easement, and that isn't the right word. That's basically the de facto property line
Yeah.
at this point.
It is. And we
So-
just want to leave it the
So
same.
that maybe goes back and says this setback, de juris, it's 10 feet, but de facto, it's really, or it's close to 25 feet, but it really isn't.
More.
It's less.
No, it goes to the.
To
The
the Murray
setbacks
City-
go to the real property line, not to where the fence is.
Right. Legally, it
So if-
goes to
so
where
if-
the rear
if-
property. Go ahead, sorry.
So if they, by chance, get this additional property from the city, their setback is actually increased because there's more property behind the
It's increased from
home.
the 10 feet, but it won't be
Fine, but-
increased to the 20, to 25.
No, it will increase more than what it is today, or what is being proposed.
Well,
still
again, not if
conditional.
they turn that property over to the homeowners that already have that fence line there.
It still increases it.
It increases it from 10 feet, but it still doesn't give you the
The full-
25 feet.
You're correct. It wouldn't give them the 25 feet that would be required as part of the RM15, and that's why they're here with a
I
PUD.
appreciate
Let
him-
me, can I finish? So you would need, that's the whole point of a PUD, is that it does allow for a reduction in setbacks, and we do that fairly often. We go down to 15 feet pretty regularly in rear yards or in front yards.
Well, and that depends a little bit on what's behind, or next to the property too.
So the setback that we got is based off, you can't quite see it because there's a white box over it, but this is called Chestnut Place. And the buildings on you can see the black line right under the T there. That's a 10-foot setback. So we basically just mimicked these exact setbacks from the neighboring HOA.
Do you want to speak quickly to the deceleration lane?
Yeah, can you pull up that? So UDOT is requiring an XL and decel with a little pork chop there, so we can have right in, right out only traffic on there. So we don't disturb the traffic along 5300. The shoulder of 5300 is huge right now, but we will have curb and gutter poured and fill in the asphalt however wide they need.
So you're saying that's already been
This
considered
is-
as part of the?
Yeah, this is designed by
plan. Okay.
UDOT.
So-
We don't get to decide what they.
So, Mr. Lane, the drawing here we're looking at is what that is what you're talking about. It's already
Yeah,
proposed.
that's an XL and decel lane, and that's a little concrete pork chop.
So how long is that? It looks like it's almost half the length of the whole development. It's some length.
Yeah, it
And
is, God, I want to
It looks
say
like it's over.
300 feet or something like that.
It looks
And
like it's
how wide-
over 300 feet, because
Yeah.
if you take this line from here to here, that's 320 feet.
So that-
Yeah, so it might be 350. So it's designed by the UDOT traffic engineer. They said,
And it's
there's,
one
the
lane.
speed limit on this road is this. You have to have a decel and XL lane that's this long, so.
And it's a car wide, one lane wide?
Yeah, essentially,
Yeah, so it's
I
significant.
think they're 19 feet wide or 20 feet wide.
I guess part of the reason I asked that is for scale. to
Yeah.
Understand, and then also understand how much space there still exists between that road and our setbacks.
Yeah,
Where the
yeah,
property line
there's-
begins for the setbacks. Yeah.
There's tons of land there, and we went through UDOT with this, and they said, well, because the future potential widening of 5300 is not possible because that it actually, their right-of-way bumps way out right there, but then the Chestnut buildings, you can see right there, so they can't widen that road into where our setbacks will be anyways, so, because we have that weird little triangle bump out.
I would say, though, if you see for scale, this is like a truck, it looks like. That tiny little white dot is a truck. And so you would have what, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Yeah, so you can see
six-
where it's lighter.
6 in each direction almost.
Where it's lighter is the existing shoulder. It's just a huge, I mean, we get semis that park and sleep the night there already because the shoulder's so wide, so.
Do you think the UDOT approvals are going to delay your development?
No,
or
so
it should
UDOT
be
has
okay?
given us a construction permit. So
Okay.
they'll allow us to move forward with construction. The problem is, this is called a limited access line so we just have to go through UDOT's process where we have to get appraisals and surveys. So they said, we're sorry, we brought that up sort of way too late. So we're gonna give you your construction permit
Oh,
and then we're
okay.
gonna let you deal with our UDOT logistics.
Because we were
While-
worried about
while
that. I
you're-
remember asking you
Yeah.
about that when you were here in October, like
Yeah,
you
no.
got a UDOT approval, so.
Well, we still have it, but they're just making us do a bunch
Jump
of
through some
more
hoops.
hoops for it, so. yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yeah, I have a question. Can you tell us about the walking path? Is that going to be just a slope up or is it going to be terraced and what? Is it going to be natural or are you going to landscape it?
I think we're planning on just, I don't know what they called it, compacted base, just sort of like a gravel path. That's just a place for people to hang out. So this does get sort of steep right in the middle. So we'll probably have a little terrace right behind the buildings where it's flattened out slightly. It already existing is slightly flatter there, and then it'll walk up the hill, and that's just to connect them back to, there's a catwalk that goes into the neighborhood, and then the bus stop is up there, and it's just sort of a walking exit and just a community area.
So you're not going to lay grass that whole hill? You're going to just have it natural?
It'll probably be grass right behind the buildings, but no, we won't maintain it up the hill. It'll be natural. They'll xeriscape it. They'll landscape it because it's existing. It's just weeds and stuff, but yeah, it won't it won't be maintained lawn.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll have the applicant sit down. And I will open this agenda item up for public comment. If you would like to make a comment, we ask that you come to the microphone and state your name and address. If there's anyone that would like to make a public comment.
Hi, my name is Harry Hankins. I just live in the condos just west of the development. Do you know when they're going to start construction?
We can address all questions with the applicant or staff after the public comment period.
No, so I could ask Justin?
Yeah, so your question will address after the public comment
Okay.
portion.
Do you know if any of his units are going to look down on ours? I mean, are his taller than ours? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, we'll address all of your questions after the public comment portion.
Okay, and then, how's he gonna get, if you live in these condos, how are you gonna get on 5300 South going east or west?
You won't, right turn only. You'll-
Just west?
Yep, just
Okay,
west.
okay, just west, okay. And are they have any kind of a tall wall between our condo association and his most west unit, I guess, or by the road that I saw coming out there? That's all. That's the only thing I could think of, actually.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Any other comments?
Good evening. I'm not sure that this is the comment right now or the two emails that you referred to. I'm Kyle Miller, by the way, if those are going to be read into the record first.
So, they were provided to them. I won't read them into the record.
Okay,
I
so
provided them.
I'll just stay here then. Huh?
Yeah, just make sure to state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Kyle Miller. I reside at 4709 Moss Creek Circle, Murray, Utah. And my concern, so you
Well,
guys.
Sorry, will you just make sure you speak into the microphone, just because this meeting's being recorded? Thank you so much.
Okay. So you're aware of the emails, so if I don't need to go too much into that. So obviously, my concern mainly is just the potential landlocked scenario that might happen, but perhaps it's not. It might already, maybe the utility aspect has been provided for. I talked to Zach, and I don't think Zach knew at the time, and we've been pen pals for about 3 years, but I think this is the first time I've seen you, Justin. And by the way, I think your project is fantastic. I think that's definitely the highest and best use of land, in my opinion, and I've had some experience in this. So my concern is just that, and I could go into my concerns, but I'm not so sure if it's really something that I need to be concerned with, or it's already been addressed. So I don't know. Should I go into the concern as if it's not addressed?
You could bring it up, kind of like how I had mentioned in my reply to you.
Well, what you said in the reply is that the cities don't get involved. But in fact, I think they do. The Municipal Land Use and Development Act provides assurance that the development would ensure access and infrastructure to adjacent properties. So that, in fact, is my concern. Developers typically must account for adjacent properties that include access to utilities. It's necessary for equitable development. So that's my premise. And as you're aware on the email, things were established that he was going to have utilities put into my, right by my property. And that's the way it was going for, just what the email states. I don't want to be too redundant and take too much time, but just what that says. And then May, he said he had changed his mind, but I don't know if that left a provision for access to the utilities. Because I am landlocked, that cul-de-sac, I'm not sure if you want to look at the screen or if you know it, but the cul-de-sac on Clover Meadows, close to Justin's neighbor. We tried to secure that park strip 20 years ago. And, we just were, it was, it just wasn't successful. He just wasn't interested. So it's just been in that state. I was an active builder. We were active builders at the time. And we just wanted to develop 3 lots. In fact, we spent considerable monies having Flint survey, develop a plat map. And so that's how serious we were about getting utilities in. Back then, we couldn't do it. So the natural thought is let's wait for future development and we could hook up at that time. Well, that time is now, so.
Okay, we can address it with the
Okay.
applicant. Great, thank you so much. Any additional comments? Did we receive any email comments?
Yeah, I do have an email
Okay.
that I'll read into the record. So we received this at 4:47 this evening from Abby Thurman. Hello, I'm writing about the Justin Lane development on 5300 South. I can't make the hearing but wanted to weigh in. I live at 841 West Clover Meadow Drive, pretty much smack in the middle of the development. To be honest, I'd do just about anything to block some of the road noise from 5300 South, but I'm very concerned about losing our privacy. The flyer that I was sent shows the buildings going right up to the property line. Is that accurate? Is there really going to be a building wall just on the other side of my fence? I'd like to know exactly how far that will be. Will there be windows facing my property? What are the plans to maintain privacy between the condos and the existing homes? How are the builders going to mitigate noise during construction? Is the developer going to be responsible for putting new fencing in place? What is the overall timeline? When will construction begin and end? I understand the need to provide more multifamily housing in our area. I just hope that the Planning Committee and Murray City are taking current residents and their properties into account and keeping our interests and privacy in mind. If you have any questions for me, reply to this email or call or text me at 801-503-4973, Abby Thurman.
Okay, if there's been no additional emails, I will close the public comment portion and bring it back let's answer, I guess, some of those questions.
For sure. So I think regarding construction, we can ask Justin about that one because I don't know. But regarding the utilities that Mr. Miller brings up, he had stated that he is landlocked. If we look here, this would best illustrate it, I think. It does have access through this right here that accesses the back of the property. And that's how he would get utilities. That's why in my reply, I had stated that we would not get involved between 2 property owners deciding. If it were indeed landlocked and he didn't have a way to get across the public right-of-way, that we would be addressing. But as there, and you can kind of see it here, but it's this black line that touches onto 53rd that he is allowed to get in there. It does limit the availability of the property because he would not be able to put in a public street in there at all to have access, to do more than what's there than a single-family dwelling. But that's kind of the case for the utilities. And I'm sorry if I pronounce your name wrong, Mr. Atkins. again, when construction starts, I'll let Mr. Langdale answer that question. Looking down on other people, based on these, it's about, it looks like the highest the 2 stories could be is 29 feet. So I'm not sure. I don't know how tall the houses are next on Clover Meadow, but 29 feet is the height for the 2 stories.
And
But-
that's an average two-story
Yeah, I was
house.
gonna say
That is
not-
an average 2-story
Not
house.
any taller than having a backyard
Exactly,
neighbor, right?
yeah, and I would say that any single-family home, well, technically in this zone, you're allowed to go up to 40 feet with planning commission approval. Like I had mentioned in the presentation, that he's made a conscious effort not to have 3 stories on that backside there. Other than that, let me,
On that map, could you show us which property is owned by the person that sends you that comment?
I believe it's this, I think it's this one. Oh, wait, no, I lied. It's this one right here. Yeah.
Abby.
Abby Thurman.
And then will there be fencing on that west side between the other?
I believe there is
Multi-unit.
fencing there currently.
Okay.
We'll have you come up and speak to us, just so that they can get it on the record. But there is fencing there, I think, currently, and there's not a proposal to install new
Change.
fencing.
Okay.
But we can discuss that with Mr. Lang here.
Yeah, if we could have the applicant come forward. Do you want to address some of those questions?
Yeah, so there is existing fencing on the west side that Chestnut Place installed several years ago. I mean, it's vinyl fencing, it's nice. None of our units are terribly close to that fence line anyways. That's where our road comes in and our detention pond is right there. So that side, I wouldn't worry
Additional
about, yeah,
Space, yeah.
looking down. But yeah, I did work really hard. I fought my builder every single day to not put 3 stories against, because like I said, one of those is my house. So I also didn't want 3 stories looking down into my yard. Several of those are Rambler style. My house and the 2 neighboring houses are Rambler styles. So they are shorter than what's going in, but what we're putting in is significantly shorter than most of the 2 stories in that neighborhood, so.
Were there any other questions we wanted him to?
The utility thing
construction time.
with Kyle, so yes, I talked to Kyle about trying to get the sewer line to go out to Clover Meadow, but the same little strip of land he couldn't get through years ago, I couldn't get through, so we had to move, the sewer line now goes in through my yard to Clover Meadow, so that's, yeah, I didn't move it because I wanted to, I moved it because I didn't have another option, so that was the only way to get the sewer connected, because there's no utilities in 5300 South, so.
And Mr. Smallwood, I guess I will expose my ignorance a little bit. Just when a piece of property is landlocked, to me, that could mean multiple things. It could be I can't get a car to my house, or it could mean I can't get power to my house, or I can't get sewer to my house, or I can't get electricity to my house. And all those have different access points depending on where they currently exist, right? So that driveway to the south, that potential driveway, that's public land that will remain a drive access to his property. Is that right? Between 53rd and Kyle's property?
Do you mean Kyle's property
Yeah,
right here?
there.
Yeah, so it's closing off, the access that this property has to 53rd, but it still allows him to, this singular property to have that access there.
But I guess my question is, when you say access, you mean physical access. How does that apply to like sewer and power? I mean, would it be access, in my mind, it would be access to sewer or power if on 53rd there was a public water line running or a public sewer line, right?
Correct, yeah. This is currently on septic, and it would have to remain on septic.
On septic, okay, that was
Yeah.
my question.
Yeah,
Okay.
Unless for some reason they install something
Well,
on.
it sounds like he would have to do the original plan and try and get access on Clover Meadow.
Yeah,
Because there
which
is
would-
no in 53rd. So he would just have to do the same
There's
steps
a piece
that
of,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
did if he wanted to
We're not
connect to
blocking
the.
any access.
Right.
We just also couldn't get it.
He would just
so.
have to do the same,
yeah, there's a
steps of
piece
it.
of land between his land and Clover that he can't get
Yes,
access
that's
through.
the-
Yeah,
Yeah.
so there's a little piece right here that this property owner owns, and then this is Murray City, I believe, owned. It looks like a thicker black line, which is that little access way that I was mentioning that connects up here.
It's a 4-foot sidewalk. It's a catwalk that goes
Yeah.
up, so it's not.
I didn't even know it was there until I actually started looking for it.
Yeah.
It's weird.
And then what about your timeline? Some people asked about,
Pending Murray City approval. So we will send our bid set out right when we can. We'll begin construction as soon as we can. And I don't know the timeline on the actual buildings. My hope would be to finish with what's called flat work, so roads, utilities, gutters, by summer. But I don't know about the vertical construction timeline.
okay,
So I
That's
won't be,
helpful.
I won't be heading that, so.
were there any other questions we missed?
I think we should just mention, I think there was a mention about how they're going to keep the sound down during construction. And I think we should just mention there's sound regulations that they'll have to follow. when
Yeah,
they do that.
and, yeah, there are noise ordinances in place that no working from, I believe, like, I think it's like 10 AM or 10 PM to 7 AM. And if there's ever anything like that, you can always call the non-emergency dispatch or call the city, and we can send somebody out to deal with that.
Okay.
I don't foresee any problem there.
There's one more, I thought. There's a question the first gentleman raised about whether there was going to be a wall constructed on the, was it the west end?
On the west side, yeah,
Yeah,
between
to
us and this. and-
Differentiate?
Yeah, we have no plan.
No
There's a
plan right
fence
now.
there. We
Okay.
just plan on leaving. I don't
Okay.
know why we would build a wall.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ling.
Thanks.
I will bring this item back for discussion or a motion.
Madam Chairman, I make a motion that the planning commission approve the planned unit development and grant preliminary subdivision approval for Murray Fields on the property is addressed 770 and 780 West, 5300 South, subject to the following conditions that were on the screen earlier.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Hacker and a second by Commissioner Huristo to approve the plan unit development and grant preliminary subdivision approval for Murray Fields on the properties addressed 770 and 780 West, 5300 South, subject to the 8 conditions. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, we can call for a vote.
Perfect. Commissioner Hacker,
I think it's a great development. Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes,
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. So, motion approved. Good luck. Know you still have lots of steps left, but yeah, we're really excited. You've worked really hard, we can tell, on what's been presented to us. So, thank you so much for being here. Okay. Is there any further business or announcements?
We will have a a decent-sized meeting on the 5th, so let me know if you're not going to be there. We have a number of items, site plan, conditional use, Brad Reynolds Wagon Master project coming forward. Yeah, it's going to be, I think it'll be a fun meeting. It's very different. Also, are you gonna say
Yeah.
what I think you're gonna say?
When you're done.
Okay, and then I do anticipate having something on the 19th as well. We do have a couple items already being scheduled for that. So just let me know if you're not gonna be able to make it, so we can prepare accordingly. And then I'll turn it over to Phil, because he
I
has
just
something to say.
wanted to take a minute and first of all, thank everybody. My tenure as CED director will end on January the 3rd. So that's my last day with the city. A successor has been named. It is Chad Wilkinson from Layton City. He is currently the CED director in Layton. Yes, Maren? he
Okay,
did-
I was gonna say,
He did
wait,
work
did he
here
work for Murray
previously,
City
about
before?
10 years ago, approximately 10 years ago, when
Guess
I was on
so.
the planning commission
Yeah.
with you the first time. Chad was staff here. He has worked at Bountiful since leaving Murray a few years ago and has been in Layton City for about 5 or 6 years as their director up there.
What a cool way to come
So,
back.
yeah, I'm excited for the city. He's very qualified. He knows the city, and I think it's a great replacement. So, again, I just wanted to thank all of you and wish you good luck.
Hey, Phil,
Thanks, Phil.
thank you for telling us about it. You should join our last.
That was my
going away
question,
dinner
Phil.
Oh,
Party.
yeah.
We have a couple of vacancies that we need filled.
Yeah.
I've had my time on the planning commission.
No, he
And I've
means
got-
coming to the
You
party.
can be,
But join the
On the
party.
3rd.
the way we've reviewed this last week, or last month, last meeting, and we can have you back on the council or on the commission again, so.
That is a possibility, but a remote possibility.
We'll talk to the
Put
mayor.
it that way. All right. But thank you, folks. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Is that it?
Okay. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
Second.
I need a
Meeting
time.
adjourned at 7:33.